Well, right now we are learning a wildfire threatening homes in South Carolina continues to grow. That fire broke out yesterday in Horry County in the Carolina Forest area. That's not far from Myrtle Beach. Fire rescue teams say first responders were evacuating several neighborhoods there as that fire now reaches over 600 acres.
We've got ones that can see. Welcome, everybody, to today's show. Fires, once again, are spreading across the United States of America. And just like the other times where we hear about these quote-unquote wildfires, they are not actual wildfires. These are acts of arson being committed by your own government. Now, in some cases, they'll use directed energy weapons. In other cases, they will just light the fires themselves, whether they're using drones, igniting them with aluminum that they're spraying from the skies, or of course we know they have the ability to just really send strong frequencies to those smart meters that are being slapped on the side of everybody's home. But make no mistake about it, we see the same pattern being committed over and over and over again. Now, a lot of people, when they hear us discuss this, think that we're jumping to conclusions. But if you look at the pattern's always the same. These locations that are getting hit with these quote-unquote wildfires that we're being told are natural disasters, even though our own government has admitted to owning the weather by the year 2025. And last I checked, it is in fact 2025. The common theme that we continually see is that there are major plans for smart cities to be put in these location. So people out there hear this. You hear the government talking about, hey, we're going to launch a smart city in Myrtle Beach. We're going to launch a smart city in LA by 2028. We're going to launch a smart city in Maui. How does one think that actually happens without actually burning the place to the ground first? Do you think by smart city, they mean that they're going to slap on a Wi-Fi router in every business to make sure it's a smart city? They need to demolish and destroy the infrastructure so that they could rebuild these buildings, these apartment complexes, these homes. They're all going to be run on controllable, smart technology. So every time we have one of these fires, we could look for ourselves on government websites like Myrtle Beach, bragging about how they were going to name it Meta Beach. Myrtle Beach officials taking steps towards a smart city. And now conveniently, there's a fire that's spreading very close to Myrtle Beach. In fact, on Myrtle Beach, just like we heard in Los Angeles. They told us that LA was going to be smart by 2028. Well, how does one city become smart without destroying it first? Because again, the infrastructure is physical. It's physically inside of these buildings where they're using things like biometrics and infrared, and everything is automatically connecting to a system, right? That's what's occurring here. That's the technology that has to be put in place. And guess what? If the government says we're going to put a smart city in Myrtle Beach and you own a business in Myrtle Beach, are the odds strong that you're going to comply with what they say when they say you're going to have to shut your building down? In fact, you're going to have to destroy your building and make sure it's up to code so that we could have it running on smart technology. Well, of course not. Of course, you're probably going to say, no, thank you. I'll pass. Things are going swell. I've owned this building since I inherited it from my great-great-grandparents in the early 1900s, right? So how else would the government get people to comply? Well, the government wouldn't get people to comply. And if these are what the plans are that they tell you out in plain sight, that they want to turn Myrtle Beach into Meta Beach, that they want to turn LA into Smart LA, that they want to turn Lahaina and Maui into the first fully operational smart state and smart city, well, they're going to have to do things like this, right? And the common theme we constantly see with these fires are all of the government documents that tell us that this is what the plans are. Remember during Maui, where they told us the top emergencies officials were on another island learning how to respond to disasters when Maui wildfires actually began, as the deadliest U.S. wildfires in a century razed Maui, the emergency officials responsible for responding to them were all on another island learning how to deal with exactly such a disaster, right? And of course, what were they talking about at these types of meetings when they go and gather? Well, they're talking about entering the age of the internet of everything and how they could fix and change the infrastructure. And of course, that would take 100% full-on compliance. That means anybody who lives inside of these cities, who may have inherited property, may have lived there their entire lives, has to comply. And you know what the percentage is of getting everybody on board with this is actually? Probably less than 5%. You wouldn't be able to knock on people's doors and tell them, hey, we're going to rebuild the entire office that you work in. We're going to rebuild your home. We're going to rebuild your apartment. What you would do is you would burn it to the ground, and then you would take the land that you already said and took claim to by saying that you were going to build these smart cities in these locations, even without the people who live there, even without them agreeing to it. This is the only way you could do it. And of course, here is a clip that aired a year ago from Myrtle Beach, bragging, these clueless politicians, some of which, of course, know what's going on, these clueless Tavistock news anchors, telling you this like it's a good thing. Hey, it's just a little bit of an advancement in technology. We're all on our phones all the time, so we might as well make life easier for everyone. Let's watch things in 3D. Let's be able to interact without even knowing where we even are, what we're even doing anymore, because we have our heads buried so deep in our tech that we're really actually not even living in the physical realm anymore. Here they are talking about Myrtle Beach, and listen to how they even right in your face talk about the fourth industrial revolution.
New details tonight on plans to turn Myrtle Beach into Meta Beach. It's all part of making the city a smart city using new advanced technology. Our Ali Espinosa joins us live from downtown Myrtle Beach tonight. And Ali, city staff are actually calling this the fourth industrial revolution. Talk about the ultimate upgrade. So what does that mean for us here in Myrtle Beach?
Rachel, the overall goal is to improve our quality of life here in Myrtle Beach, and city staff say they're working to do that through new technology, and it's all starting right here in downtown Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach.
It's the second fastest growing city in the entire country. From its 60-mile beach to hosting one of the biggest country music festivals, Myrtle Beach is no doubt an area that has a lot to offer, and plans to bring it to the next level are ahead.
What we're looking to do, or what we're trying to do here, is create an urban environment where technology can help us improve our experiences, whether it's the services you receive from your local government, the experiences you have as a tourist in our town or a visitor in our town, but also, how we conduct business with our businesses.
Myrtle Beach Chief Innovation Officer Howard Waldy IV says he's been working to make Myrtle Beach a smart city since March of 2022. They're teaming up with Jennifer Hotai, co-founder of Osverse and Grand Strand Web3 Guild. Their teams are wanting to make the city more advanced to improve the quality of life for you and your family and any Myrtle Beach visitors.
There should be, a virtual 3D room that you can go and experience and be able to interact, see the menus in 3D, be able to go and experience the history of, this of South Carolina, etc., go and have interactive experiences. I think that is something this whole state in general is lacking, but especially Myrtle Beach, it really should pop out a lot more.
Through more advanced tourism attractions and safety measures like acoustic detection systems, which can detect the sound of gunshots, which have already been approved, the city of Myrtle Beach is working to keep up with what's ahead.
Cell phones. Back in the 80s and the 90s, right, you had the original telephone. Some people had that phone in the briefcase, and now we all carry around these mobile devices that are smaller, but they're essentially computers at our fingertips. Smart cities technology is no different. It's just the next phase of technological evolution.
So for anybody out there that thinks when we discuss these things after they occur, that they're very suspicious, what's more suspicious is how the government tells you that they're going to take a place where people already live, where people are perfectly fine in their day-to-day lives, and they say, we're going to change it. We're going to take it and we're going to make it smart. Well, nobody ever signed up for that. Nobody owns property there says that they want that. In fact, they probably could think of millions of other ways they would like their tax money spent, right? And then they flat out tell you about the fourth industrial revolution, right? Which is very interesting because the invention of the fourth industrial revolution, of course, comes directly from Klaus Schwab. It is not a catchphrase. It is his book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. It is his creation. And you even see people like Elon Musk bragging about how Tesla was going to be front and center of the fourth industrial revolution. And another thing that's interesting about Myrtle Beach is that they also announced their first 4 participants of Living Lab program. The Living Lab may move Myrtle Beach, South Carolina from tourism to tech. 4 tech companies are part of the city's initiative, which is aimed at growing its tech industry and making strides in smart city and digital government work. A Living Lab facility is in the works. You know, like one of these visions that we see in these dystopian things like Neon's The Line, where they show us all these plants. Look at all these plants. And it's green. Isn't that fun? There's plants and trees, and we're all living healthy lives, right? Except for the fact that you're living in a prison. You just don't see the bars because the technology is your new prison. And since you're allowing us to control everything with tech, you're giving over and giving up your God-given human rights because now technology is in control. Technology can shut you out of whether or not you can go into this restaurant or that place, whether or not you might have a certain something inside of your body. Remember when the government was trying to lock people out a couple years ago? Do you think those days are over? Where they told you not to go see grandma on the holidays, that you need to quarantine, they needed to stay 6 feet apart, and don't you dare think about hugging somebody because you might combust into flames, right? Those days are nowhere near over. What's needed for them to continue to move forward is for us to continue to comply with this technology takeover that's happening. And of course, the things you hear most people, actually we know that 99.9% of the population would hear the things that they heard in that clip and say, what's the big deal? You know, because they don't even know what it means. Oh, things will be a little bit more tech savvy. Oh, I'll have a 3D menu in front of me. Boy, yeah, because it's so hard to hold a physical menu. They think that all these things are being done for their convenience, to make things easier, to make things fun. But think about when all these things that you used to control are now being controlled by technology, including your bank account, including your social media accounts, including everything, because everything is run through tech. And then the government could say, we're going to lock you out. We're going to shut you out. You can't come here. You can't go there unless you comply to what we tell you to comply to. And they can only do this. They can only do this through technology and compliance with their plans with technology. So people out there get very upset when they hear us discuss. He's like, oh man, they're talking about Myrtle Beach. No, they're saying that Myrtle Beach is another government-started fire so they can bring in a smart city, right? They've gotten people to hear this and automatically dismiss it. Just like that, right? When what we all try to do is show them, look, this is your government telling you that LA is going to be a smart city, that Maui is going to be a smart city, that Myrtle Beach is going to be smart meta city. How in the world do these people think that that is going to happen without them being able to commit crimes like this and get away with it? What do you think? These people are going to let Larry Fink roll into Myrtle Beach and go, hey, Larry, yep, you can have my property. Take my kids too, right? The people would unite. The people would rise up. So they use this boogeyman that they've created called climate change. And then they can blame all of these bizarre weather phenomena on the climate, even arson. Since when do some of these locations get forest fires? I mean, nobody's even explained the science behind how Lahaina actually had a forest fire, how there was actually flames on the ocean. Nobody can explain it because their science doesn't make sense because they make it up as they go. So the proof is there because they tell us what their plans are for all these locations. But never once do we ever ask, well, how are you planning on doing that? You're going to need everybody's consent to do that. And you're not going to get everybody's consent to do that, to turn cities into smart cities, to turn infrastructures into smart infrastructures, which would cause many businesses to go out of business because they wouldn't be able to afford it, right? Well, why? What do you think they would actually do? Wait for everybody to say, yes, please come and turn our city into a smart city? They'd burn it to the ground. And they'd say, well, we don't know who burned it to the ground. And they put all these articles out there that would say, conspiracy theories running wild, saying that they're trying to put in smart cities in this location. Well, you're the ones who tell us that you're putting in smart cities. You're the ones that are calling it Meta Beach before the fires. How is it going to convert into Meta Beach? How is it going to transform over down in South Carolina? I find it hard to believe that the residents there, elderly residents, that they would be on board with changing the entire infrastructure of their town, of their favorite locations, just because the government tells them that that's what they want to do. It's not a conspiracy when the government themselves, these are all documents from government websites talking about turning these places into smart cities. It's not like we're making it up and saying, oh, there's a fire here, and then we're just running over going, they're going to make a smart city because there was a fire in the middle of the woods in Oklahoma. Well, when these locations are actual locations that are being pinpointed by big tech to become smart cities, or you see the investors who are surrounding these locations, who have plans to build these laboratories and these cities out, then you say, oh, wow, well, they wanted to do that, and then conveniently it burned to the ground. Now, what's going to happen to the people that own the land? Oh, they're going to get bought out from their land, just like in California, just like in Maui, and probably just like in Myrtle Beach. So they tell you this stuff out in the open. It's just, I think that most people, again, have a hard time believing that their own government would do this to their own citizens. And I find that to be the hardest thing to believe. Why would you, or how could you, think that these people care about you at all? They just locked you up. They just told people to take something that they didn't want to take, or they'd lose their job. They literally forced people through peer pressure into poisoning themselves, then held no accountability for it. In fact, continue to spread the same exact lies that they spread then about how it saved lives, when everybody out there knows that anybody that went and got it, for the most part, most of the people never lived to see 2025. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody didn't live, but what would make you think that this government on the left or the right is your friend? They do nothing but prove to you the opposite. All they do and go out of their way to do every day is keep us divided, putting out propaganda every day to make you hate your next door neighbor and forget about them who are working together, the left and the right, to do this. They've divided us so much so that most people can't even live on the same street, let alone next door to somebody that has different political ideologies, right? Now, all it would take, I suppose, like I've said over the last couple of months, is I just use the example of saying, well, if I showed you your president, your governors, your senators, and we removed their heads and we stuck Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, Charles Manson, a lot of these guys who were actually CIA assassins, we put their faces on them, but then you say, oh, I could see them then. I could see what Dahmer was, I could see him burning the entire place down. He's crazy, right? Well, these people are sicker than any serial killer you've ever been told about. And most of the serial killers you've been told about were actually Manchurian candidates, are actually trained and programmed by your own government, the same one that tells you that they love you and they care about you. And all you need to do is go and poison yourselves for them, and then they'll leave you alone. And then, of course, they want you to go again and again and again and again. I mean, the government's done nothing but prove that they are against the people. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. So think to yourself, when you see these stories, when you see these fires, if you see all these stories ahead of it, like that Meta Beach from years in advance, right? They're telling you what they're going to do there. Then say, how would they actually do it? What do you think it means? That they were just going to get a 5G tower and stick it in Myrtle Beach? That they were going to tell business owners that they have to have free Wi-Fi in their buildings? It's a complete infrastructure overhaul. They literally are better off burning these places to the ground because that's what they have to do anyway to rebuild. It's the phoenix rising from the ashes. So prayers to anybody affected in the Myrtle Beach, the Carolinas, anywhere out there really, because this is the type of stuff we're dealing with every day. We could wake up and we could see it outside our window, just trees on fire. And the government saying, oh, it's a wildfire, right? Yeah, what's next? They're going to tell us that there's a wildfire at the North Pole and we're going to believe it? What? Are they going to tell us that in the next blizzard that we get, there's going to be a fire tornado inside of the blizzard and we're supposed to believe? These people probably would at this point. It's getting that ridiculous. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.